A charismatic lawyer known to make winning statements, no matter the case, goes on to discover how women came to have rights. When she realizes how much women have to suffer to have the most basic rights, she takes off her skirt in court to prove her point. The movie opens up with Charlie, a lawyer, arriving at her firm. As she parks in the handicapped parking spot, an old woman stops her and tells her that it is not right for her to park there. Annoyed, Charlie points to her dog who had defecated on the street, and tells her that she can get charged for that. She snaps a picture and tells her that she will be sending it to the police before heading inside. As soon as she gets inside, her assistant informs her that the meeting has already started and she is late. Charlie rushes inside the conference room and just makes it in time for another lawyer, Bertrand, telling their boss that nothing in their client's case file can help him. Their client will be convicted of rape and sent to a maximum security prison. At this, Charlie lets out a laugh, distracting everyone. Their boss turns to her and asks her for her opinion. She replies that although she does not know much about the case itself, but it is rare not to find anything in the case file. To her surprise, he asks her to go over the case files with Bertrand and find something that they can use during the trial the next day. Despite her telling him that she does not have the time, he gives her no choice. Once the meeting ends, Charlie's assistant hands her a letter and informs her that she will now be representing the case. Her assistant reminds her that the trial is taking place in a courthouse in Bobigny, which is a few hours away. Before she leaves, she tells Charlie to not forget about the dinner at her mother's place. Later that night, Charlie goes to her mother's house and begins working on the case. In the morning, she goes to the courthouse, confident about winning the case. As the jury gathers in the courtroom, the prosecutor begins talking about her victim and how she had to suffer at the hands of her rapist. Then, it is the defense's turn to present their argument and Charlie stands up. She argues that the victim met with her accuser on a date and the two of them had consensual sexual relations. She pulls out a pair of red panties and presents them to everyone. She claims that when a woman wears red underwear, she is giving her consent for sex. She further goes on to say that she is wearing beige panties because she knew she was coming to court and was leaving without a man. With this, Charlie and Bertrand exit the courthouse after winning the case. Her statement causes nationwide protests and people think that she had wrongfully proven that a rapist was innocent. That night, she goes to a club and meets up with Bertrand to celebrate their win. Still not happy with how she had won the case, Bertrand leaves as soon as Charlie's friend, Noémie, joins them. Her friend Han manages to convince her to take a pill and the two of them start partying until everything starts spinning for her. Then, she leaves the club, gets into a taxi, and tells the driver her address. Her driver, Hubert, immediately recognizes her as the woman who fights cases against women. Charlie tells him that she is tired of women and their Me Too movement. To which he replies that they are not wrong to protest because there is a lot of inequality between men and women. He then starts telling her that men have thrice as many streets named after them. Charlie barely listens to her driver as he lists the streets named after women. Just as she reaches her apartment, Hubert tells her that those who ignore the past are the ones who relive it. Paying him for the ride, Charlie goes inside her apartment and begins to undress. When she tries to take off her shoes, she falls on her face and loses consciousness. The next morning, Charlie wakes up and finds herself in a pigsty with a pig eating one of her heels. Horrified, she starts screaming, attracting the attention of men dressed in medieval clothing. One of the men locks her inside the pigsty until he comes back a moment later with more men. They drag her out and tie her hands behind her back before taking her to a small room filled with other women. Charlie begins laughing and thinks that she is still hallucinating as a result of the pill she took at the club. When the men tell all the women to take off their clothes, Charlie happily takes them off as well. One of the men tells the woman that Bishop Cauchon will check to see if any of them bear the mark of the devil. Charlie gets in line as one by one, the women are thrown to the side once the bishop brands them as witches. Charlie meets a woman there whom she assumes is Noémie. Soon, she is presented to the bishop, who takes a look at her modern underwear and immediately thinks that she is wearing the devil's clothing and is asked to put her clothes back on. When she smells her own clothes, she realizes that they smell bad and puts on a gown, similar to the one all the women were wearing. After that, Charlie is taken outside with other women, and all of them are loaded inside a carriage. Just then, a woman comes out wearing Charlie's clothes and starts screaming that they are not hers. When one of the guards slaps her, she attacks them and begins throwing punches as everyone watches her. Charlie tells her not to resist the police or she will make things harder for herself, but the woman tells her that she is fighting injustice. Sometime later, the women arrive in Rouen. As they pass through the streets, people begin cursing at them and hitting their carriage. The women are then presented in front of the council who are going to give them their verdict. Charlie tells all the women that they need to confess quickly so that they are not given a harsher sentence. The woman who Charlie thinks is Noémie is presented first. Charlie whispers to her and tells her to say "I confess," and the woman repeats after her. However, as soon as she says she confesses, she is told that she should be burned to death. At this point, Charlie grows a little concerned but then brushes it off as a hallucination and begins laughing. Then, the woman who had attacked the guards is pushed forward. The bishop introduces her as Joan of Arc, which causes Charlie to start laughing again. Joan is then given her punishment for dressing up as a man and having freedom of speech. After that, Charlie is pushed forward and she confesses that she had taken drugs. Just as the council decides that she has not done anything wrong, the bishop claims that under her clothes she is wearing the devil's clothes. He says that she should be given the water trial and taken to a bridge. If she manages to stay alive, she will be deemed a witch. At the top of the bridge, Charlie is pushed inside the water, struggles to stay on top, and sinks to the bottom of the river. When Charlie regains consciousness, she finds herself lying inside a bank. When the bank manager arrives inside, he asks her who she is. This time, Charlie thinks that she has stopped hallucinating and asks the manager if he can call a taxi for her and if she can withdraw money from her account. As she hands him a card, the manager throws it away and tells her that she needs her husband's consent to withdraw money. Shocked, she tells him that she is a lawyer and probably has more money in her account than his bank. However, she gets thrown out of the building and for the first time, she realizes that everything is real and she is no longer in her time. All of a sudden, she spots a couple and recognizes them as her parents. She tries to get their attention but fails. As the reality starts sinking in, the world starts spinning for Charlie until a taxi honks at her. When she notices the driver, she finds that it is Hubert. She tells him that she was trying to withdraw money but couldn't. Hubert tells her to calm down and informs her that she is in the year 1964, and cannot work or open a bank account without her husband's approval. When Charlie asks Hubert how long she will be time traveling, he tells her that it could last for a while. Before she can ask any more questions, he asks her to get in the taxi. Just as she is getting in, her clothes change from wet rags to pants and a coat, appropriate for 1964. Hubert begins driving but hits a speed bump, causing Charlie to time travel again. She wakes up surrounded by nomadic men who try to attack her. At that moment, another man saves her, but to her horror, he begins dragging her by her hair. Suddenly, Charlie disappears from his hold and time travels again. She wakes up in the middle of a park and concludes that if she drinks, she will wake up at the same club she had been to before she time traveled. This is when she notices police officers chasing after her. Charlie begins running but is soon caught and told that she is getting arrested for wearing pants in public. She gets thrown into a cell and told that she is going to stay there until someone brings her a dress. A few minutes later, a woman gives a doctor's note to the policeman, detailing an illness that allows her to wear pants in public. The policeman lets her go and she meets the woman who introduces herself as George. Charlie tells George that she needs a drink and George invites her to her house. The two of them drink and Charlie asks George what she does for a living, to which she replies that she is a writer. Charlie realizes that she is talking to George Sand, the world-famous writer in the year 1850. When George starts kissing Charlie out of nowhere, she decides that it is time to go back to her time. Just as she takes a sip of alcohol, she is teleported to 1793, where several women, along with Olympia Gouges, are asking for female representation at the National Assembly. When none of the men at the assembly speaks for them, Nicolas de Condorcet speaks up and reads the Declaration of Rights written by Olympia Gouges. Later that night, Charlie assists Olympe in putting up posters of the Declaration of Rights in the streets when they are caught and knocked out. This time, when Charlie wakes up, she finds herself in 1983. She rushes to the library and finds that Nicholas had killed himself and Olympe was decapitated for her writings. She starts calling out for Hubert when a taxi stops in front of her. When she gets in, she notices that it is not Hubert. Still, she asks the driver to take her to her mother's house. Before she gets out, she tells the driver that she is going to get the money from her father, but he starts harassing her and suggests that they can work something out between themselves. Charlie curses him out and leaves. She walks inside her house and watches as her father comes closer to her mother. She begins to reminisce when he hits her mother with a belt. Then, a young Charlie tries to stop her father, but he burns her with an iron. Charlie realizes that her father was abusive, but she has blacked out the memory. She rushes inside the house to help her mother but falls down and wakes up in the streets of Paris in 1906. Hubert arrives with a horse carriage that she gets on. In the street, they knock over Pierre Curie and accidentally kill him. At his funeral, Charlie convinces the education minister to have Marie Curie as the next professor to replace her husband. She goes on to become the first female professor at the University of Paris. The next time that Charlie time travels, she finds herself in Napoleon's era. She manages to seduce him and sleeps with him. In the morning, she finds him writing the Civil Code of 1804. She accidentally lets it slip that he got one of his slaves pregnant and that his wife, Josephine, is sterile. Napoleon then accuses her of being a witch, but she reminds him that he had ended witch hunts and cannot get her arrested without probable cause. He accuses her of stealing his pen, and soon she finds herself in a line where women are offered to men. When she tries running away, she slips, and this time she finds herself in a men's public toilet. She realizes that this is during the liberation and asks a man nearby what is going on. He informs her that it is the municipal elections where women can finally vote. A woman reveals that it is April 29, 1945. Charlie goes inside and finds her grandmother there, who can't vote because her husband does not approve of it. Angry, she goes back out, but she discovers that she is now in 1972, outside the Bobigny courthouse where Maria Claire Chevalier is being tried for getting an illegal abortion. She then manages to find her mother and goes inside the courthouse to hear Giselle Halimi's closing statement. Giselle gives a powerful statement that later goes on to legalize abortion in France. After that, Charlie finds herself waking up in her bed, right before her trial in the Bobigny courthouse. She gives the case files back to Bertrand and goes on to defend the victim. However, she notices too late that she had left her notes in the file, and her boss gives the same statement that she had before time traveling. Charlie gets out of her seat and tells the jury that a woman wearing a red panty does not mean she is giving her consent for sexual relations. To everyone's surprise, she takes off her skirt and shows that she is wearing red panties as well, but has no intention of sleeping with anyone. The movie ends with Charlie winning the case and successfully putting away a rapist. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and turn on the notifications to help the channel out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.